Recently, I had to make 3 price inquiries for hotels in my area. And I had, well, like I said, 3 interesting phone conversations. And I figured we could use them as a case study about how people in the hotel industry deal with uh, possible clients who called in cold. And maybe we can learn a couple of things about how we can help improve our sales and customer service. That's for those of us who are in the wedding industry. So I figured we'd have a fun little exercise while I'll run you through the 3 separate calls, and let's see if there are any lessons that we can learn for those of us who are wedding planners, wedding photographers, cake artists, makeup artists, and what have you. Now, the reason why I had to call the hotel in the first place was because my neighbor, quite uncharitably, decided to fumigate his house and didn't bother to notify those of us who have little children on the left and on the right. And well, he didn't fumigate the inside of the house, but rather he fumigated the outside, and so anyway, the fumes are just flying all over the place. Initially, I was upset, and I went to go and speak to his security detail, and at some point, I even fancied, lopping the guy over the head, because it's been a while since I've been in a good fight. But anyway, I spoke to them. The damage had already been done, went back into the house. But by the time my children started sneezing, I figured this was not going to work. So after consulting with my wife, even though this was not something that we had planned on doing, it's not money we had planned on spending, we figured the right thing to do would be to get out of the house and go to a hotel for the night. And so that's the background. That's the reason why I had to make those calls in the first place. So, to preserve the identity of the hotels, we'll just call them Hotel A, B, and C. Now, the first hotel, Hotel A, was fully booked, and the person who spoke to me was really nice and she was really personable. And she wanted to know what day I had in mind, and of course, I mentioned it had to be that very evening. And she said, "Oh, I'm sorry, we're fully booked." But then she added, "My name is Chidima. Please store my number so that when you have any more inquiries to make, you can just call us up and we'll see how we can help." And I said, "Thank you very much, Chidima." And after the conversation, I didn't store the number because, well, I'm not just going to store the number on my phone. Now, let's say Hotel B. Hotel B had multiple tiers. When I say multiple tiers, I mean multiple tiers in their price structure. And they started off with their top tier, which I think was about 70,000 or 90,000 for the night. And that was more than I was willing to spend. So I didn't even let him get to the other tiers. And I told him, thank you very much. This is way beyond what it is that we were willing to spend, and that's how we ended the conversation. And then there's Hotel C that also has multiple tiers, but they decided to start their tier off at the bottom of the scale. And the fellow mentioned that there was a room for 20,000 naira for the night, but they would be willing to cut me a discount and let us have it for 18,000 since we wanted to have it immediately. And that's the hotel that we just went for, because I wasn't thinking about a night out for the family. I just wanted an affordable place that we could stay for the night so that the kids wouldn't have to breathe the fumes of the chemicals. Oh, and by the way, it's one of these chemicals that are based on, I think it's DDT. I can't remember what they're called. But these things are not supposed to be in use anymore. So I'm surprised that in residential settings that educated members of society would still have their, what should I say, domestic staff, domestic wards still carrying around these sorts of chemicals and using them, because they're really terrible. They irritate the respiratory tract of human beings, and I think they also have really disastrous effects on the environment. And so that's one of the reasons why I believe in India they're really taking a hard stance on these sorts of chemicals, because you use them out in the fields and then the cows eat the grass, and the cows are fine. The problem is when cows die, and vultures come and feed on the carcasses, then the vultures get sick and die. And I think that's how, through that connection of cows and vultures, it ends up poisoning the ecosystem. So basically, regardless of the sales lessons that we're going to come out of this today, I'd like to plead for those of you out there who use these sorts of things, DDT and what else? The other one that is, I think it's one of the base components for these insecticides like sniper and stuff like that. We should really be careful about how we use these things, especially in an unsupervised domestic setting where we just have our house boys or girls or our security detail or whatever going around spraying these things all over the air, especially when we have young families in place. So now, let's see, where was I? Okay, back to the whole point of the podcast in the first place. It looks like I just went off on another rant. Okay, so Hotel A, B, and C. We settled on Hotel C, which had a room for 20,000 naira that was willing to offer for 18,000. So I told the fellow that, I'd be right there in the jiff. When I get there, who should I ask for? He told me his name. I said, okay, cool. When I get there, I'll call for you. So we got there. I had a look at the room. It seemed okay. Wanted to be sure that there were no mosquitoes. It looked all right. Not a very bad place at all. Not shabby. And so I filled out their form, the customer info. For those of you, my non-Nigerian listeners, you might find this bit a little odd, but this is just one of the quirks of the environment that we live in. Now, for security compliance, that's to comply with, I'm not even sure if it's a legal thing per se, or if it's more of an administrative thing or a good practice thing with the police, where they have you fill out detailed forms for all the people who come and lodge in your establishment, and it's really detailed. You're supposed to fill out you have your name, your email address, your address, phone number. Some forms are even so detailed as to have what's it called, your passport number and things of that nature. Although most of the hotels that I've stayed in, at least in Abuja and Lagos, don't make you to go so far as actually to fill in your passport details. Some places might take your what's it called, a form of identification, maybe a driver's license, and photocopy that and then have that as part of the stack. So basically, the reason why it's done in this part of the world is so that if there are any security concerns later on and the police have to go and rough up any member of staff in a hotel, they can say, oh, well, there was this person who came in who looked like this, these are his details, and then the police would have a lead that they can follow up on. But I guess the point that I'm trying to make is basically Hotel C did get some customer information from me, which is for the purpose of security compliance. Now, let's go back all the way to Hotel A and let's see if there's any lesson that we can learn from them. Chidima, the lady who answered the phone in Hotel A, she was really nice, real professional, real personable, and I guess the lesson that we can take from there is if you're going to have someone man the phones, then make sure it's someone who sounds real nice and professional, who can handle her stuff and can take initiative in the conversation and to leave a good impression. And so for that, for Hotel A, let's give Hotel A top marks. Now, the place where Hotel A dropped the ball, in my own opinion, maybe you guys might have a different opinion about it, where they dropped the ball was Chidima capped off the conversation by saying, okay, my name is Chidima, store the phone number, when next you have enquiries, call. Now that in itself, I think was really good. That was showing some initiative. The problem is, in the sales process, we can't expect our prospective customers or clients to take initiative on all things, because you can recommend that they store your phone number to call you back later. It doesn't mean that they actually will. Like in my own case, I already have too many contacts on my phone, so if I don't have to, I don't store a number, especially when I think I can just look up, go back on the internet and say, Google Hotel A, and then get another phone number to call. So what are the possible ways around this? some ways around this that you take the initiative are, Chidima could have said, that's towards the end of the conversation. Oh, thank you very much for calling, sir. My name is Chidima. Um, can I have your own name? And then, of course, I'd have told her my own name. I might or I might not have. But let's just say I told her my own name. Then the next thing, one possible way that she could have gone would have been to try and get my client details so that she can hand me off to customer service or the sales department so that I could be part of their rotation in the future. So, yeah, my name is Chidima. Can I have your name? Would it be okay if we get in contact with you later on to let you know any special offers or discounts that we have? Besides Christmas is just around the corner, we might be doing something then, or possibly Valentine's Day. Since she was paying attention to the conversation, of course, she noted that I have a wife, and of course, it's no surprise that those of us who are married and have kids sometimes need a little getaway time when we can, away from the kids, just so that we can, fool around and have some monkey business. Where was I? Okay, yes. So bottom line is, Chidima could have handled that conversation with a view towards getting my client information, my personal information, so that she can hand me off to sales or customer service, who would now keep me in the loop. So that way, in the future, I'd be able to receive a phone call or an email to say, we're from Hotel A, you called during so and so period, or just reaching out to let you know that we've got this special offer going from this date to this date, and if you take advantage of it, it's going to give you this % off, and blah 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 and stuff like that. I'm just rambling from the top of my head, so I'm not necessarily saying that this is the only way that we can go about it. But the bottom line is, when you take the initiative and you get customer details and you put them into your sales process, these are avenues through which you can squeeze a little bit of extra income over time. So, bottom line, what can we learn from the Hotel A experience? We need to take the initiative the whole step of the way. You can't just tell the bride who calls you. You can't just tell the bride who calls you, oh, thank you very much for calling. My name is Tavishima. Store my number on your phone. Excuse me. Store my number on your phone, and then when next you need a wedding photographer, if you know someone who needs a wedding photographer or someone who needs a wedding planner, please call me back. No, that's not the way to go about it. You take the initiative. So thank you very much, Chidima, for calling. Sorry I couldn't sort you out now. Would it be okay if I get in contact later on to find out if you were able to sort out that request you wanted handled, that, wedding photography, wedding cake, whatever. And if she says no thank you, then that's cool, you drop it. But if the person gives you permission and says yes, then cool, then that person goes into your funnel. You can call later on to say, oh, by the way, how did that search go? You called me 2 days ago, I wasn't able to help you out, but I tried referring you to cake artist ABC. Were any of them able to sort you out? Oh, they weren't. And in that case, you might be able to resume the conversation again. And if any of them was able to, if any of them were able to sort out the bride when she called, the good thing is that by doing that, you would have made a positive brand impression about your whole ecosystem, and so there might be room for referrals down in the future, further in the future, because she knows that you guys are a real professional bunch to deal with. That she called you for a wedding cake, you weren't able to sort out with the wedding cake, you made referrals, you gave her 3 names, you call back to find out how things went with the referrals, and that's a good avenue for positive brand reinforcement there, and hopefully there'll be room for business in the future. So, like I said, I'm freestyling here. So, with the main ideas that I'm putting out here on Hotel A, I'm sure that if you sit down and you really think about it and speak to your business partner, I'm sure you guys will be able to come up with more sophisticated schemes about how to handle this. But bottom line is, take the initiative. You get the client or the customer information and then put that into your sales process. That will improve your odds for doing business in the future. It's not going to work as well if you just keep telling the people, this is my name, store my number, call me back when you have a need. Okay, so for Hotel B, multiple tiers. Now, this is not something that I can speak about professionally because I haven't done much research into pricing tiers and the best way to organize it. Although the conventional wisdom that I seem to come across seems to be that if you're going to have multiple price tiers or packages, as we call them here in Abuja, if you're going to have packages for wedding planning, package A, package gold, and package silver, conventional wisdom seems to be that you have three tiers, three packages, and your goal actually should be to see how you can get people to buy your middle package, which would seem to be the most desirable one. So the price A would be way out of the league of the average person, but package C, or let's say package bronze, is not going to have enough. It's not going to have enough there to make people want to jump at that offer. But then the silver package or package B is one that is going to have all the juicy stuff thrown in. If you're a wedding planner, that's the one that is going to have extra, the extra ushers and, or I'm not sure what it is that you wedding planners use to try and entice people to book a package with you. So I'm not, like I said, this is not something that I have much experience in because I don't do packages, I don't do tiers. I prefer an a la carte style, so I'm more of a menu type of guy. So the client and I, we sit down, we discuss what all the options are, we itemize everything, and then we tally it up, and that's it. That's their bill. It's just one price. That's not what I'm recommending, by the way. So I'm not saying that's the best. That's just how I'm most comfortable running my own business. So if you're going to have multiple tiers, don't have 5 tiers like Hotel B. Make it 3. Maybe worst case scenario 4. Conventional wisdom basically seems to be 3. In fact, for those of you who remember, in a few episodes prior, when I mentioned Tom Hopkins recommends that that's his approach basically. He figures that at the end of the sales process, you give people 3 options: option A, option B, option C, and then your close pretty much is which one would you like to pick. Okay, so that's it with Hotel B. Don't have 5 tiers, have 3. And then another thing you might want to look into for those of you who have packages is what's the best way to walk through the prices with them. Because if you notice, these people started off with that top tier, which I think started off at 90K, and that was really way beyond what I was willing to spend. So I just cut the conversation short at that point. So I'm not sure if you're supposed to start the conversation on your lowest tier or on your middle tier, but basically these are stuff that you can research. For those of you who are wedding photographers, I think Jasmine Star has some material on things like that, and well, she has a podcast right now, the Jasmine Star podcast. So wedding professionals, you guys check it out. She was a former she doesn't do wedding photography anymore, but she's a former colleague, if you could call her that. So it'll be nice to see what business insight that she has for us. So check out her podcast as well if you can. Now let's go to Hotel C. Now, Hotel C, I don't know how many tiers, how many packages they had, but they started off from the lowest tier. So I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if that's the best way to go about it. And I haven't done any research into these sorts of things because generally I don't like playing price games. And so anyway, we went with them and they took our customer information. But at this point, what I'm going to say next is just speculative. They took the information for security compliance. I know that for sure. But the thing is, if you remember what I said about Hotel A, when we have client details, prospect details, when we have information like this, it's useful sales. It's a useful thing that we can drop into our arsenal for sales and marketing. So ideally, I think what Hotel C should do, but I suspect they won't because I haven't been to any hotel that has done it in the past, is a couple of days after we check out, somebody from sales or customer service should call and say, "Hello, Mr. ABC. You stayed at our hotel on the so night of September 2023. We hope you had a wonderful stay. Any suggestions, any questions, any complaints. When you have conversations like those, you're able to get useful tidbits about how to improve your service. So you could hear something like, "Oh, I really enjoyed the stay. It was nice." But the problem was the only short part of the service was when we ran through the options on TV. We didn't have any channels for the children. You guys had CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera, Nollywood, all the typical things, but you didn't have anything suitable for kids. And since we're staying with the kids, it would have been nice to have that sort of option. So in this case, which actually was the case, because I would have told them if they are called to find out about how good our stay was, then they would now know that, okay, they could run through their records and find that, okay, we have a certain number of families that stay here over the year, and it seems that 60% of those are families that come here with little children. So it might make sense to actually have something for kids in the TV menu. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, when we have customer information like this, even if we get it for security compliance like they do, or we just happen to come across it because we need it in the usual course of our business, because for me, I send receipts and invoices to the email addresses of my clients. I don't do paper. I don't do paper receipts. And so because of that, typically by the time we're done with the clients, and I also deliver to their houses. So typically by the time I'm done with the clients, I know quite a bit about them. I know their parents' names. I know what their parents do, because I like to talk a lot with my clients. I know what the bride does, what the groom does. I have the information, their phone numbers, email, sometimes siblings. I know quite a bit about the family. So when you get this information, you don't just take it and then after the wedding is over, you now chuck it. These are things that are going to come in handy when we're doing our follow-up calls, because from the follow-up calls, we're going to know about ways to improve our businesses. And let's think about it and be practical, at least for those of us who are wedding photographers. If we're going to get referrals out from the brides and the grooms when we're done with the wedding, I mean, how else are we going to get it? These are some of the ways that we're going to get the referrals. We'll get the referrals not just by asking the bride and the groom, but also because we're going to be in touch with other members of the family. The big auntie who did a lot of the coordinating. Let's say that's one of those families where they didn't get a wedding planner. I mean, there's my friend Manny with Sculptors Events. I know that he's been able to get a couple of gigs like that because he was cool with big auntie or cool with mommy, and so because the first wedding went well, he pretty much planned the wedding. I mean, there's a family here in Abuja where I think he has done the wedding for 3 of the sons, and it's one of those types of scenarios. So whenever we get client details, client info, we should put them to good use. So I guess we've gotten enough on the moral of the story, but this is what I think the key points are. Number one, when people call you up on the phone, do not freestyle. Make sure that you have a process in place before they call, because when the customer calls to say, I need a hotel, how much is it? Or I need a wedding planner, how much is it? That's the wrong time to start freestyling. You need to have a process and a philosophy about how you're going to deal with price inquiries right from the get-go. So if you haven't got one, you need to sit down, take time out, speak to your business partner or your spouse, or listen to podcasts, hop on the internet. You need to come up with a process. And I think an experience will prove me out over time, if you try this out, that this greatly improves your odds for business success. So you don't have to agree with everything that I have said in the scenarios for hotel A, B, and C, but just make sure you have a process so that when that fellow calls to say, I need a room, how much? I need a wedding planner, how much? I need a wedding cake, how much? Make sure that you have a process to walk them through so that you can increase your odds of building a successful business in the future. Now, in the case of these hotels, where I, the client, because they didn't try to take any initiative, I was able to steer the conversations to revolve strictly around price. I really think the end goal for them should have been customer details so that they can put me in the loop, pass it off to the sales and marketing division so that they'll be able to make future, so I can be part of the sales funnel in the future, and that way they're going to be able to make a little bit of money. Although in their defense, this is Abuja, I hear that the hotel industry is really big here, so I guess none of these people, hotel A, B, and C, would try doing these things because I guess maybe the demand in Abuja is more than they can keep up with anyway. So that would just be the exception that I would say. So like if you're that wedding planner right now who is hot and you're having 20 calls a week and you can't keep up with them, I guess there's no point in trying to implement these sorts of things. But if you're the regular Joe, like me, or someone who isn't satisfied with the level of success that they have so far and would like to turn things up, then please pay attention to these sorts of things. Okay, so that's it for today. My case study / rant. Thank you very much, guys, for listening. I'll catch you at the next episode. As usual, I'm your host, Abuja-based photographer Tavishima Ayede. Thank you very much for listening to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. You guys have a good one.